Hi, Will Henshaw here again, more of my current events videos on YouTube. And there's a lot of troubling things going around, as all of us know very well by now, with all this COVID crap and the quote unquote election of 2020. And among other things, serious situations have arisen. The one I'm going to discuss in this video is student loan forgiveness, quote unquote. And this will apply, by the way, to those of you out here who had student loans and have paid them off. Because among other issues we're going to raise, is the fact that the quote unquote lender not only didn't have any standing to do business in whatever jurisdiction they're in, but they fraudulently induced you into an agreement that they knew from day one was dead on arrival. That's known legally as null and void nunc pro tunc ab initio. And a big reason for it is the money issue. And trust me, nobody in their right mind on the other side of these events wants to take me on any issues, let alone the money issue, which I know a cappella. The problem they have is that with the common law contract, you have to have substance on both sides. That means property, tangible property that you exchange. We have it on our side because the Federal Reserve notes, quote unquote, that we use represent our property in the form of our time and labor. Wouldn't you know, ever since the ratification of the non existent 14th War Amendment, and to learn more about that and other issues, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. I'll get you information out about my modestly priced constitutional defense document packets and multiple unopposed issues like this. What happens is if you claim that birthright citizenship, then you've got a benefit, and he who accepts the benefit must bear the burden. One of the burdens here that they don't tell you about when you sign up for Social Insecurity is that you become a taxpayer, quote unquote. Your residence, if necessary, can be found for all jurisdictional purposes in the District of Columbia. 28 USC 6708, I believe. I'll look it up for you, but it says it right in there. Resident of the District of Columbia and thus subject to Congress powers pursuant to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. In this regard, the 9 old farts, aka the U.S. Supreme Court, have ruled in Enochs, ENOCHS v. Williams, 370 U.S. 1, that a taxpayer can be taxed out of existence without any apparent need for an administrative hearing, let alone a trial by jury according to the course of the common law, to which we have the inalienable right, and we have not made a voluntary, knowing, and intelligent waiver. That's another case of the U.S. Supreme Court, Johnson v. Zerps 304 U.S. 358. That's their reference standard for it. And yet, if you're a taxpayer, see you later. It's not supposed to work that way. On the other side, the lender, quote unquote, for openers, as I mentioned in an earlier video, isn't even registered in our jurisdiction to do any business or engage in any contracts. But all they have on their side is Federal Reserve notes, aka evidences of debt, aka undefined dollars, which represent nothing. They type a few strokes on the keyboard, send it to your account, and you got it. The problem is you have to work 20 or 30 years in order to pay the bastards back. Instinctively, you know that that's not right and it shouldn't be happening. I'm here to tell you legally and constitutionally why, and strongly suggest that there are powerful issues here that we can recover any amounts that you may have tendered or all of it if you paid off your loan, quote unquote. And by the way, you can't pay a loan, you discharge an obligation. That you'll learn by getting my constitutional defense document packets. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. I'll get you the information out on that. And that said, they're in a lot of trouble here. And the good news for us, we have a lot more power than you can imagine. They just didn't teach you anything about it in the mandatory public education system. I didn't learn over 50 years ago either, but I've taken 5 decades of my life to get up to full speed here. And I know I want to share it with you and make us all get healthy at the cost of the system and those that have violated our rights and probably committed acts of treason in the process. So that said, I'm going to offer some special services here. Contact me, youwinningcourt@gmail.com. I'll explain to you what I have in mind here with a bit more personal involvement than I've taken in other cases to this point, and we can work things out. As I'm confident here that, even with not a lot of, retainer up front, that I'm good enough that I'm going to win a lot more of these cases than I lose. And by the way, the good news is, even if you lose, I'm not going to collect $1 in quote unquote attorney fees. You'll learn about that by getting my document packets as to why that's true. So there's a lot of good news for us and bad news for them. And better yet, the leverage we have if one case like this gets decided on the record, especially by the 9-0 farts. It takes care of all the student loans across the country from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon. Same issues. That's what they can't have happen. That's the leverage we have. That's one reason I won my Oklahoma felony case, where I got to get a time served plea deal for 14 felonies. And what they wanted to do was send him away for 15 or 20 years, maybe longer than that. But they realized when they didn't go to trial, they conceded that we're right about all of our jurisdictional issues, and that if they did that, they're going to get me on the witness stand, my friend, the kid's mom, and the kid himself who's in jail at the time, and those two are up to speed too, not as much as I am, but trust me, they don't want to get a triple header of people like us telling the jury what the law really is. They won't even have to leave the room to deliberate. Not guilty. See you later. That's the kind of power we have. I did it in my South Carolina felony case. I shut the bastards up within 30 seconds of my initial appearance there. And I wish I had a video. That'd be $1 million video, which they claim not to have made in a court of record. 30 seconds. Shut them up. The entire remainder of the time I was there, I didn't hear 2 words from the DA, who did not know what to do with me, and they're right. They had nowhere to go. So this is the kind of power, and that's why at my age, 72, my life is ahead of me. It ain't over. Far from it. That's amazing. I just wish I had known this 50 years ago. It would really have been different. But I'm going to teach you now, and it won't take you 10,000 hours into as much the old stacks of law books either, like it took me. The good news doing it that way, and I've got a really good memory, which is a help, but it's a lot more than names, dates, and places. It's a matter of understanding the proper perspective. And when you get over the big lie that there are states remaining that are admitted into this union, and there are none of them, and I've got an 84-page brief on that subject, which proves it, and which you'll get, if you get my constitutional defense document packet. Send me an email, youwinningcourt@gmail.com. I'll get you information out about that and some even more things that I'm doing. But that said, we're in really good shape here on student loans. So, check in on, at my emails, I just said, and we'll discuss your situation, and we'll have a service agreement that we'll be executing a minor one. By the way, as you'll learn, we don't need contracts, but there's a very good reason to have one in this case. But my grandfather, for example, when I grew up, he was in business for 50 years, never had a contract, didn't need it. Said, well, in a small town, you don't do what you say you're going to do, your word's no good and you're out of business. That's how it used to work. And that, by the way, was in the shadow of Jeffersonian Republicanism, where I spent some summers growing up as a young lad. And a lot of it rubbed off. People actually lived that way at the time, crying out loud. Not like today. So that said, remember, subscribe, like my videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The more of us attack and get across the spectrum, whether Americans, Africans, Asians, whatever, the quicker we're going to get these bastards off our back. And with student loans, we might bring this program to an end in the way it's currently configured and back it up to where it should be under the Constitution if there is such a program. So that said, thank you.